They torch the truth, crush accountability, and grin for the cameras, but panic, that's written all over their faces. Let's shred this right now.
Republicans want you to believe Trump is the victim of a witch hunt. But what if the real threat is their chosen FBI nominee who literally shared a video of chainsawing his enemies' heads?
Start by disagreeing with the notion that what took place with respect to the cases against President Trump was weaponization. I know that's the Republican theory of the case, but the other reason why the FBI and the Department of Justice would investigate Trump for crimes is because Trump was doing crimes. And there was adequate predication to pursue investigation of those crimes. And indeed, in every case that I'm aware of in which those cases were allowed to go to judgment, the president was convicted. So we can't allow the weaponization narrative to just remove the notion that the guy was investigated and prosecuted for crimes because he did the crimes. Once you start with the notion that Trump is not a criminal but a victim, you then have to invent the conspiracy that victimized him. And once you've propagated that conspiracy, you then have to find who the conspirators are. So then you have to go after FBI agents and DOJ folks in order to prop up that theory. The way that ended in Soviet Russia was with show trials of the individuals who were allegedly in the conspiracy. The way that ends in Trump's America is with agents and prosecutors forced out in mass purges that may well, as the Ranking Member Durbin has pointed out, been driven by Kash Patel as a private citizen. So starting with that point, there are three reasons why Kash Patel is extremely dangerous. One is all of his wild MAGA behavior. This is a guy whose judgment is beyond questionable. It's appallingly bad. We have a lot of quarrel about whether his enemies list is an enemies list and whether we're smearing the guy by saying that his enemies list is an enemies list. Here's what he said about it. He showed his enemies list and said, the manhunt starts tomorrow. If they're not your enemies, why would you start a manhunt against them? He called them the criminals themselves and showed a picture of his enemies list. If criminals aren't your enemies, as head of the FBI, who are? He retweeted a video showing him chainsawing the heads off of people on his enemies list. If you're chainsawing the heads off of people, are they not your enemies? So the invention that this is not an enemies list requires people to go into just fantasy land. And these are his own statements. These aren't our accusations. These are Patel's own words. Going after people in the media, impeaching judges who disagree with us, shutting down the FBI Hoover building, on and on and on. This guy is a flagrant extremist with appallingly bad judgment. Second point, we don't know enough about this mischief yet. There are real open questions. We've never in this committee had a person come for a serious senior law enforcement position who had testified in a grand jury criminal matter, and we don't know what he testified about. He's entitled to tell us. That's basic grand jury Rule 6E law. But this side of the committee is completely covering that up. We have absolutely no statement from Patel about what his grand jury testimony was. And he's at liberty to give that to us. He just won't. And Republicans won't tell him to. So he gets away with it. He pled the fifth. You don't get to plead the fifth without a real and genuine concern that you can be prosecuted for a crime. What crime? We're entitled to know. We've never had somebody come through this committee for a high senior law enforcement position who had pled the Fifth. He's got the right to do that, of course. We've got the right to know. And by the way, when he exercises the right to do that in a civil proceeding, that entitles the jury to draw the adverse inference that what he is covering up in the civil proceeding with his Fifth Amendment assertion is against his interests. A judge will instruct a jury about that adverse interest, and we're not supposed to draw an adverse interest in this committee when we're not told about his Fifth Amendment assertion. There's all this weird stuff that's come up since about investments in Chinese companies in the Cayman Islands vesting while he will be FBI director. If the guy is supposed to be investigating Chinese intrusion into our intelligence faculties, if we're trying to investigate Chinese fentanyl trafficking into our country, why do we want an FBI director who is somewhere between $1 and $5 million into a Chinese company through a Cayman Islands shell? And then there are the Russia connections. I'll get to those at the end. We don't have to, where everybody's fond of saying these are Democratic smears. Actually, go to the Trump appointees who worked with this guy. What are they warning us? They're warning us, Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. I didn't think he was qualified. I was forced to hire him. That's some recommendation from a colleague. His deputy, Charles Kupperman. Patel's ideas are ludicrous. He's absolutely unqualified for this job, untrustworthy, an absolute disgrace to even consider an individual of this nature. Definitely you want that on your resume by way of a recommendation from a former supervisor. Attorney General Barr said Patel has virtually no experience that would qualify him to be the deputy director of the FBI, and now he's back as the director of the FBI. And Trump's CIA director, Gina Haspel, threatened to resign rather than allow this guy into her office as her deputy. And if you go beyond the Trump appointees who are warning us about this guy, you can go to the last time he testified in court, which was in Colorado, and here's what the court found about him. That Patel was not a credible witness, that his testimony was illogical, and it was completely devoid of any evidence in the record. Okay, I've been an attorney general, and I've been a United States attorney, and I've put state police troopers on the stand, and I've put FBI agents on the stand. If at the end of a case, a judge made findings like this about a law enforcement witness that I put on the stand, there would be follow-up. I would want an explanation of why this witness was so incredible that findings like that were made by the judge. It would be a significant issue with respect to that witness's continued performance in office. And here's a guy who's been found to be completely incredible by a judge in his testimony, and we're acting as if that's nothing. That's not Democrats. That's a judge in Colorado. So the last thing I'll say is I think we need to begin to prepare ourselves for Trump-Russia 2.0. The Trump-Russia thing was, I'm not going to go back all over it, fully ventilated in the Senate Bipartisan Intelligence Report, in the Mueller report. Trump-Russia was a thing. We stopped talking about it, but Trump kept talking about it and saying it was a hoax. Trump-Russia hoax, Trump-Russia hoax. No, it was not a hoax. It was real. It was there. There's a record. Part of it was bipartisan work. Some of it was done in the House. There was an abundance of evidence about the Trump-Russia connection. And now what are we seeing? We're seeing Patel coming in, who says he wants to wreck the FBI's what he called intel shop, which is the part of the FBI that looks at Russia and does counterintelligence work against Russia. He said that he wants to close out the D.C. office and send everybody out into the field. Well, it's the D.C. office, not the field offices, that do the counterintelligence work. You want to shut it down? You're opening your arms to Russian intelligence operations. You go just across to the Attorney General's office, and there's Attorney General Bondi. What's the first thing she does when she gets in? Closes all the kleptocrature and kleptocracy investigation offices of the Department of Justice. Gee, who were they pursuing? Putin and his oligarchs. You shut down the group that has successfully grabbed assets off Putin's crooked oligarchs. What a signal that is. And then look at Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not going to go through the whole length of her Russia associations, but let's just say that a Russian news media editorial said that her appointment should cause the CIA and the FBI to tremble because she was a friend to Russia. Who defends us against Russian intelligence operations and Russia's criminal operations in the United States? It's the FBI, it's the Department of Justice, and it's our intelligence community. The people in charge of each one have sent powerful signals that they are shutting down our defenses when it comes to Russia. And we're about to head to the Munich Security Conference, where we are seeing Mr. Art of the Deal and his operatives giving away every piece of leverage that we have over Putin with respect to Ukraine. It is unilateral disarmament to throw Ukraine under the bus and give Putin what he wants. So mark my words. This Patel guy will come back to haunt you. Every piece of evidence shows that, and it is not Democrat evidence. It's his own words, it's his own colleagues, and it's judges evaluating his credibility. And Trump Russia is going to come roaring back if it's not already back. We should be on our guard about this nominee, and we should be on our guard about Trump Russia. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much.
Let's rip the veil off the latest MAGA masquerade, the weaponization narrative, their favorite bedtime story to explain why Trump keeps racking up criminal indictments like their Pokemon cards. They want you to believe poor Donnie was hunted down by a corrupt deep state. But here's the truth. Trump wasn't targeted. He was investigated because he committed actual crimes. And as the speaker in this hearing powerfully laid out, every time a case has seen the light of a courtroom, Trump has been convicted. Period. But here's where the script gets darker. In Trump world, truth is treason. And the FBI isn't law enforcement. It's an enemy cabal. So naturally, the solution from MAGA land? Install a loyal hatchet man to gut the Bureau from the inside. Enter Kash Patel, a man whose qualifications to lead the FBI are about as legitimate as Trump's claims of election fraud. Now let's break down the radioactive dumpster fire that is Kash Patel. The enemies list, straight out of fascist fan fiction. Kash Patel literally unveiled an enemies list and declared, "The manhunt starts tomorrow." Yes, a manhunt, not a review, not accountability, a freaking manhunt. This wasn't some accidental phrasing. He called these people criminals and posted an image of the list. Then he shared a video of himself chainsawing their heads off. Let that sink in. This isn't satire. This is a man being considered for FBI director, gleefully fantasizing about dismembering his perceived enemies. If this were a foreign regime, we'd call it unhinged authoritarianism. But here, Republicans cheer it on. And what's their excuse? Oh, it's not an enemies list, they whine. It's just figurative. Sorry, but when your political rhetoric includes decapitation videos, you've crossed the Rubicon of decency and are wading ankle deep in fascist sewage. Grand jury silence. What is Kash hiding? Unlike any nominee we've seen, Patel has testified before a grand jury in a criminal investigation and refuses to disclose the subject. Now, Republicans are shielding him like he's carrying the nuclear codes. Why does it matter? Because grand jury testimony, while confidential, can be voluntarily disclosed by the witness. So why doesn't Patel come clean? What skeletons are clanking behind that smug MAGA grin? The answer is obvious. He's protecting himself because he knows disclosure would obliterate what little credibility he has left. And let's not forget, he invoked the Fifth Amendment. That's not a declaration of innocence. It's a neon sign flashing, "I'm hiding something criminal." And this isn't just some TV drama. We're talking about a man applying to lead America's premier law enforcement agency. Conflicts of interest, Cayman Islands plus Chinese firms plus Russia. You want national security? Patel is the guy who allegedly has between $1 to $5 million in a Chinese company via a Cayman Islands shell. That's right. The man MAGA wants to fight China might just have financial ties to China. But wait, there's more. He's also made it abundantly clear he wants to dismantle the FBI's intelligence division, which tracks, you guessed it, Russia. This is what America First looks like now. A guy with offshore holdings who wants to decapitate the unit keeping tabs on Russian infiltration. It's not just hypocrisy, it's national security suicide. And while we're on Russia, remember the Trump-Russia scandal Republicans swore was a hoax? The Mueller report, the bipartisan Senate Intel report, remember those? Patel wants to rip out the FBI's ability to monitor Russian interference. That's not just dereliction, it's active sabotage. Even Trump's own appointees can't stomach Patel. Here's the real kicker. If you think this is just partisan outrage, think again. Patel's own MAGA peers are sounding the alarm like it's DEFCON 1. John Bolton, Trump's own national security advisor, said, "I didn't think he was qualified. I was forced to hire him." Charles Kupperman, Trump's deputy NSA. Patel's ideas are ludicrous. He's unqualified and a disgrace. Attorney General Bill Barr, yes, that Barr, said Patel had virtually no experience for leadership at the FBI. And then there's CIA Director Gina Haspel, who threatened to resign if Patel entered her office. Imagine being so toxic, so completely radioactive, that Trump's own deep state enablers would rather walk than work with you. Judges call him not credible and devoid of evidence. We're not done yet. In his last court appearance, a judge ruled Patel's testimony was illogical, not credible, and completely devoid of evidence. Let me break that down in plain English. The guy lied on the stand. Judges don't toss around those phrases lightly. If a regular FBI agent had that on their record, they'd be in a disciplinary hearing faster than Trump can shout witch hunt. But here we are, considering giving this man control of the FBI. Trump-Russia is back. Baby. This entire charade is a flashing red warning. Trump-Russia. 2.0 is being rebooted with Patel as its point man. He wants to gut intelligence units, dismantle Russian counter-op investigations, and of course, kneecap the FBI from within. Sound familiar? It should. And just across the aisle, Trump's AG appointee closed the DOJ office that chased Russian kleptocrats and seized their assets. MAGA's message is clear. Putin, welcome back. The door's open, the safe's unlocked, and the FBI is being hollowed out from the inside. So let's recap. Kash Patel is a man who promotes violent fantasies, hides his past from congressional scrutiny, has shady international investments, and was labeled not credible by a judge. He wants to destroy the parts of the FBI that protect us from foreign threats. And the only people vouching for him are the same Trump cronies who've made a sport out of burning this country down. Republicans claim they care about law and order, yet they're handing the keys of the FBI to a man who dreams of executing political enemies, hides behind the Fifth, and has been called a disgrace by his own side. This isn't governance. It's sabotage dressed in a MAGA hat. And let's be absolutely clear, this isn't about one man. This is about a pattern of installing loyalists to cripple institutions, dismantle accountability, and greenlight corruption. The Trump machine isn't just coming for power. It's coming for every guardrail of democracy we've got left. Kash Patel is the tip of the spear. If we don't call this out, if we don't stop this now, we'll be watching the justice system rot from within. Don't let this lunacy slide under the radar. Share this video, shout it from the rooftops. Subscribe, comment, and join the fight to expose every MAGA lie before it metastasizes. Democracy doesn't defend itself. We do. Time to rise up.